Oh, live. Okay, looks like yeah. She said it was gonna show on the screen. All right. Well, great. Good to see you guys again. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Green Party Series podcast. I'm your host Gokhan Cukurova, stepping in for the one and only David Rich, who couldn't be with us for tonight's episode. I'm gonna try to do my best, although I am well aware that I cannot fill in his shoes. I have two of my old friends, Morgan and Joshua, small farm owners here in Illinois. They will share their story, their experience with us, but they do come from a different background. It will be interesting conversation, I believe. I'm sure you're gonna all enjoy. So welcome, guys. How are you?
Hi, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You're
We're doing
doing
well.
Thank you. You look a little tired. It's gotta be the. I don't mean no harm, but farm life, right? I guess it's been
Yeah.
hot.
We've been farming all day, so it's a sweaty enterprise over here.
Living the dream, I assume.
Yes.
All right. So, you guys want to tell me how you ended up being farmers? When I first met Morgan, she was taking my studio lighting photography classes at the Chicago Photography Center, and she was in psychology. And then next thing I know, I photographed your engagement and then your wedding, and then poof, you disappeared. And then you came back. Hey, we are farmers. What happened? Tell us about it.
Sure. So I'll take this question. You are correct, 100%, right on the money. I was on a track to become a mental health counselor. And I did, in fact, finish my master's in mental health counseling here in Chicago. And I was working as a emergency crisis counselor in the emergency room, so seeing people in crisis all the time. And that was, no surprise, quite emotionally draining. And Josh's job, right after I had finished my master's, moved us to the East Coast. And I was already burnt out on mental health counseling. So I decided on a whim to just get a job on an organic vegetable farm. And the rest is really history. I loved working outside. I loved being involved in my food and having a physical job. So I spent the next 3 years in New Jersey working on a variety of different farms. And then at that point, Josh was missing his family here in Illinois. So he's like, hey, let's go back to the Chicagoland area. And I said, hey, let's buy a farm.
Right.
So we bought some acreage here in the south suburbs of Chicago and started an organic vegetable farm.
What year was your wedding?
2015.
2015. I still remember the grandpa, moms, dads. It was a very memorable wedding, and so I can't blame him. My family is in Minnesota, so missing them. I know the pain. I know the pain. I know. Where is your farm?
Yeah, so we are about 15 miles from where I grew up. We're in Moni, Illinois.
Okay.
And so it was about as close as we could be to family and have land to farm.
Mm-hmm.
We like to call the area sub-rural. Certainly you were 3 miles west of I-57. So you get on I-57 going north and you're immediately in the busy suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
Matson, Homewood, and then, beyond that, just about 30 miles to the city.
So you're not way out of the city. Great. How big is your farm?
We've got 10 acres of land. However, we're farming about 1/4 of an acre. So we're really doing an intensive vegetable situation on a small footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that long term, we'd like to plant the rest of our acreage with perennial food crops like fruits, nuts, berries, the types of food that will just keep growing year after year, instead of with the vegetables, every year we have to plant them. And so it's very labor intensive. And we're trying to find ways to have the farm be slightly less labor intensive.
Okay. How long did you say you worked at a organic farm setting when you guys were away from Illinois?
Yeah, in New Jersey. So I worked on a variety of farms for 3 years in New Jersey. And those farms included organic vegetable farms that were selling mostly to farmers markets. I also worked on some farms that sold directly to restaurants. And then I also worked on some farms that grow medicinal plants and herbal things. So they were growing more of the elderberries and the lemon balms and the mints and things that you can use for teas or tinctures, or more of like a medicinal purpose than a food purpose. But that farm showed me that farming doesn't have to be just, corn and beans and tomatoes. Farming can include tree crops and berries and herbs and things. And so that really opened my eyes to a different perspective on what farming really means.
What is really organic farming for you? I remember, like when you said New Jersey, it brought me a memory. You might remember, I was over the road truck driver for 1 year, and quite often I would go to upstate New York and taking some stuff from Wisconsin and drive it up there. And one day I went to that Purina factory, and I was delivering some products. I believe it was a cow food, but I remember having a what's those guys? Amish guy with his little horse carriage cane. Yeah, he came and he loaded up a lot of bags similar to what I brought in, and then he took off. So using, we usually know or hear Amish stuff is all natural and whatnot. Would that go into organic farming? Would that qualify or not? What is really organic farming?
Yeah, so organic farming, so there's the formal organic certification. That's a USDA program, and it basically means what you're putting in it's natural. It's not developed in a lab. It wouldn't necessarily come from what I'll call big chemical. So not to single out any individual producer of herbicides and pesticides for those conventional corn and soy farms. But those products are very much lab generated. It's researchers, it's scientists. It's more or less taking chemicals and mixing them to get a desired output, generally killing things. Organic really focuses on building your soil and building up an ecosystem that's full of life. So if you think about, soil and it's where everything comes from. It's what's feeding your roots. It's feeding your plants, whether it's the tree across the street that you like to look out your window at. And so organic farming is following strict practices to make sure that what you are buying in terms of seed are non-GMO, they're harvested naturally, and then the inputs that you would use, primarily for us, it would be leaf mulch or plant-based compost to get our nutrients into our soil. And so those practices are rebuilding the soil. It's eliminating those harmful chemicals that have also been shown to harm humans, harm animals, harm the ecosystem. For us, it's really about farming in a sustainable way and giving more to the land then we're taking out of it. So
Right.
we think of farming as, you know, we hope to do it for the rest of our lives.